Today, I want to talk about how to regulate your period after going off hormonal birth control, which for some of you, it might be regulating your period, and for others, it might be getting your period back after going off hormonal birth control. You might find that once you go off the pill or the patch or whatever it might be, that form of hormonal birth control, that you actually don't get your period back right away. And to start, let me share with you my story. I went on birth control when I was around 17 or 18 or 19. I don't remember my exact age, but I was in high school, so I guess 17 or 18. And I went on it because my period was not regular at the time. So my period started off regular when I first got it around 12 or 13. And then when I turned around 16 or 17, I started getting my period once every 4 to 6 months. So I wasn't getting my period regular, and my OBGYN gave me no other choice and told me I had to go on birth control, that it was dangerous for my health to not get my period, and the only option was to go on birth control. And as a teenager, I didn't know any different, and my parents didn't know any different. So I went on birth control, and I stayed on birth control for, I'm going to say, at least 11 years until I was around 29, 30, and I wanted to start a family with my husband. So then I went off birth control thinking I would get my period back, and it didn't. It just never happened. I never got my period back. Now, I did get my period back, but I did not get it back right away. And there were a lot of steps I had to take to get my period back. And that's what I want to teach you today. And if you want to hear my whole fertility story, you can listen to, I think it's episode 6, where I go through my whole journey. But today we're going to focus simply on regulating your period and getting your period back after going off hormonal birth control. So first, I'm going to start by saying that after you go off hormonal birth control, it is normal to either not get your period back right away or to have an irregular period. But when I say it's normal because the hormonal birth control has fucked up your cycle and thrown your body out of balance. So it is normal that the response to that would be your body not having a regular cycle. It's not okay. It is normal because that's the right response of your body, but it's a sign that something's out of balance and something you want to fix, something you want to address. But to understand why hormonal birth control fucks up your menstrual cycle, let's first look at what hormonal birth control does, right? So overall, hormonal birth control methods work by altering the natural hormones in your body to prevent pregnancy. Most hormonal birth controls contain a synthetic form of estrogen, which means it's not the natural form of estrogen, it's man-made, and a synthetic form of progesterone, which again is a synthetic man-made form of progesterone, the hormone progesterone. And what these hormones do in the dosage that they're given in this birth control is they'll do things like suppress ovulation so that your body's not able to ovulate and release an egg, meaning you can't get pregnant. And then they'll also thicken your uterine lining so much that an egg can't survive there, an egg can't implant there, which all of those are great if you're trying to avoid getting pregnant. But if you want to have a healthy menstrual cycle, a healthy body, and you want to get pregnant either today or one day soon, those things are not supporting you. Now, the point of this podcast is not to tell you all the bad things about hormonal birth control. There's plenty of books and resources and articles out there, research-backed on the side effects of birth control, especially long-term. But I do need to name some of the few things it does to your body so that when we talk about how to regulate your cycle, it will make sense what and why you're doing it, right? So there is a lot of research that says hormonal birth control, especially long-term, will increase a woman's risk for inflammation in her body. Birth control is also well known to deplete vital nutrients in your body, such as B vitamins, especially B6, B12, and folate. And then also other vitamins such as vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, selenium, and other vital minerals in your body, which are all needed to help produce hormones to have a healthy menstrual cycle. So to put this in a really digestible way, the reason that a lot of women have trouble regulating their cycles or getting their cycles back after going off hormonal birth control is that when you're on hormonal birth control, you're being pumped with this form of estrogen and progesterone, right? And these synthetic hormones are then replaced to take over your menstrual cycle to basically stop your menstrual cycle from doing what it's meant to do. So what happens is over time, because you are pumping your body with this synthetic form of the hormones that your body would naturally produce, your body stops naturally producing it. Because your body's getting too much usually of the hormone already, it's not going to work to make its own. And because birth control naturally reduces your body's ability to naturally make estrogen and progesterone, you need to build it back. And for some people, that might just take time, right? Some of you might go off birth control and in 1, 2, or 3 months, your body might naturally pick up where it is, pick up where it left off before you went on birth control, and you'll get your period back normally. But my guess is if you're listening to this video that either hasn't happened to you or you're worried about that happening to you. So some reasons that it might take longer or you might need more assistance in getting your period back or getting your period regular after birth control would be if you went on hormonal birth control for a reason other than trying to get pregnant, right? So hormonal birth control sadly is often prescribed for things like irregular cycles, which is why I was put on hormonal birth control. It's also prescribed to deal with things like menstrual pain or mood swings or heavy bleeding. That's another one. So if you were put on hormonal birth control for any other reason besides not getting pregnant, whatever you were put on that hormonal birth control for has not been fixed. Birth control is not a solution to any menstrual problem. Hormonal birth control is simply a Band-Aid. So whatever was there before you went on birth control is likely still there and possibly even worse. So the information I'm going to talk to you about today about regulating your menstrual cycle and getting your menstrual cycle back after going off birth control, for some of you, if you had pre-existing issues with your menstrual cycle before you went off birth control, for some of you, these techniques that I give you will actually help resolve those issues also. And for some of you, you may need to dig a little deeper and examine different areas of your lifestyle, your diet, your energy, and things that are going on at a deeper level. And as always, if you ever need help or support in doing that, please reach out. That's what, I do the best. That's what I love to do. That is my work. So if you need one-to-one help supporting you and understanding your menstrual cycle or your fertility, always reach out, my website or email or DM. So that being said, from a Chinese medicine perspective, estrogen and progesterone are yin hormones. And for those of you who aren't super familiar with the concept of yin and yang, the good news is you don't need to be super familiar with it to understand this, but yin is thick fluids in our bodies. Yin is a substance that you can actually weigh and measure. So blood is a yin substance, hydration is a yin substance, collagen is a yin substance, hormones are yin substances. And on the other end of this spectrum, we also have yang hormones, which are stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. But today we're going to focus mainly on yin hormones because those are the hormones that regulate our menstrual cycle. And those are the hormones that are essentially thrown out of whack when we're put on hormonal birth control. So like I mentioned, when we go on hormonal birth control, it gives us all these synthetic hormones. So our body stops doing its job and stops working and actually suppresses its ability to create these yin hormones, to create this estrogen and progesterone, which is why a lot of women, when they go off hormonal birth control, either have irregular cycles or they have no cycle at all. So in order to regulate your cycle after going off birth control, what you need to do is focus on building yin hormones. And we do that by building yin in our body, by building that thick substance, and by building blood, which is a yin substance. So to build yin in the body, to build thick fluids, what we need to do is ingest yin. And saturated fat is the best yin substance. Things like butter, red meat, fatty fish, eggs, whole eggs, not egg whites, whole eggs, because it's really the yellow part that has yin to it. Avocado, coconut, all of those are really yin building foods because they have that thick fluid to it, right? They have that viscous nature to it that helps build yin in the body. Without saturated fats, without cholesterol, you don't have the substance needed to build hormones. So you want to start really building your plate with lots of saturated fat. And second, you want to incorporate a lot of blood building foods. So blood building foods are things like red meat. Eat small amounts of red meat frequently. So 2 to 6 ounces, right? You can have that almost every day as long as it's good quality red meat and as long as you feel good when you're eating it. As always listen to your body whenever you're eating a food, whenever you're doing anything actually, and use your intuition to see what feels good to you. But I find more often than not that for most women, eating small amounts of red meat frequently makes them feel really good. And I'm saying this as someone who's a vegetarian for 13 years and I didn't eat any meat for 13 years. And then when I did start eating meat, it was like once a week. And I felt like that was a big thing. And it honestly wasn't until I went off birth control and wanted to get pregnant that I started eating more red meat. I started probably at that point eating 4 times a week. And now I eat meat almost every day. And I try to have red meat at least 5 days a week when I feel like it, right? There are weeks where my body just doesn't want red meat, and that's okay. But in general, try to eat lots of red meat when you're trying to get your period back. Other than red meat, there's things like leafy greens, but they need to be cooked. Cold foods simply, I talk about this a lot, but I'm just going to mention it here. Everything that I mentioned, you want to eat warm and cooked. Cold foods are harder for your body to digest, and they take more digestive fire and more energy for your body to digest and assimilate the foods. Because that's really hard for your body to continuously do to break down and heat up that food if it's cold to digest and assimilate the nutrients. What happens over time is that your digestive system weakens and you're no longer able to absorb the nutrients from the food that you eat. If we can't absorb the nutrients from the food that we eat, our body doesn't have the substance it needs to create blood. So back from my side tangent, blood building foods are red meat, cooked leafy greens, black and red lentils. All berries are really wonderful for building blood. Things like beets are also really wonderful. In Chinese medicine, we typically say that red foods and sometimes black foods also are really good blood builders. That being said, again, I think red meat is really like the winner, the MVP of building blood. Eggs are also really good, and dark meat and marbled meat in general. And while we're on the topic of diet, I also just want to add some supplements that can be supportive. Now, I'm not a big supplement person. When I see people that are taking these huge lists of supplements, I just think it's honestly just a waste of money. That being said, supplements can support you in times that your body needs just a little bit extra. And in general, I don't think most people should be taking most supplements for the rest of their life. But again, for short periods of time, some supplements can be supportive. So because hormonal birth control will deplete your body of certain nutrients, you can get those nutrients back through food, which you really have to. You have to get it through food, but you can also add vitamins to help support that, right? So a good quality B vitamin would be really supportive. Folate, B12. The only thing with B vitamins, especially folate and B12, is you want the methylated version. So you don't want to intake folic acid. Folic acid is the synthetic form of folate, which again is harder for your body to digest. And for some people, we're not even able to turn folic acid into folate. So you want to get the methylated folate and the methylated B12. And then again, magnesium, vitamin C, and zinc or other supplements that you could add. I find that most people with vitamin C, as long as you're eating a good variety of fruits and vegetables, not an issue at all. Magnesium is a little bit harder to get through diet. So typically I like to supplement either with a supplement or with trace minerals. I use just trace minerals. You can find it on Amazon or at Whole Foods, or reach out to me if you want to see what I'm talking about. But it's just called trace minerals. So it just has minerals in it. It doesn't have flavor to it. It's not like LMT or whatever it is and all those other popular electrolyte drinks that have added flavor and stevia or monk fruit to it. I advise against using those because they create heat and inflammation in the body just like regular sugar does. But you can get just plain trace minerals that are things like magnesium and selenium and, all of that. So those are some supplements I recommend. Another really wonderful supplement, which again, you never want to use this solely as a crutch, but again, just to support you as you're supporting your body through diet, lifestyle, and energy work. So Chase Tree is one of my favorite supplements for regulating your period. It's a really gentle supplement that it takes time to work. So typically at least 3 months to see changes, but has been used for many, many years to help regulate periods, to help with things like PMS and cramping. So it is a really wonderful herb to gently increase things like progesterone in your body naturally. So those are ways to build yin and blood in your body. And blood, again, is a yin substance to help support the production of those yin hormones such as estrogen and progesterone that are depleted while you're on hormonal birth control. So we need to build them back now that we've went off birth control. But we can't just talk about building hormones by building yin and building blood without talking about ways that we are depleting those things every day, right? Because we can eat a great diet and that can be super supportive, but unless we're taking away all those negative things that are depleting our yin or blood in the first place, it's only going to take us so far. And if I'm being honest with my work, I do find that most of the times it is what women are doing already that's the problem. It's not what they aren't doing, right? So this could just be the women that I see, but a lot of women I see have a good diet, but there's something else going on in their life, or there's something they're adding to their diet that's really not supporting them. That's needs to be taken out and re-examined. So some things that deplete yin and blood let's start with from diet, since we already went over diet, things like coffee, excessive dark chocolate. My mentor honestly tells everyone not to eat chocolate. I can't say that because I eat chocolate, but I do think a small amount is okay, but just not an excessive amount of chocolate. Excess sugar, refined sugar, greasy fried foods. So French fries, fried chicken, things like that. Spicy foods. So hot spicy foods and onion and garlic will also deplete our yin because they are very drying to the body, right? So they're hot foods. Spicy foods, onion, and garlic are considered energetically hot foods in Chinese medicine, which means they dehydrate us, which means they reduce the amount of thin fluids in our body. And we need thin fluids to create blood and to create yin. And then any overly processed foods, artificial food dyes, artificial ingredients, anything that you don't know what the label is, essentially is going to deplete your body of blood because it's harder for your body to digest and will create heat and inflammation in your body. And like I mentioned earlier, taking out any cold foods or iced drinks or cold drinks from your diet are extremely necessary and supportive, because if you are eating a lot of cold foods and drinks, it weakens the energy of your spleen, which is responsible for digestion. So then your body's not able to absorb the nutrients from the food that you eat. I'm also going to add to this. This is because this is something that's really popular now, has been popular for the past few years, but carbonated drinks. So drinks like Spindrift and all those other brands that are super popular right now. You don't want to have a lot of carbonated drinks. So what carbonated drinks do is they activate our yang energy. And to go back, we have our yin energy and we have our yang energy. And our yin energy are sex hormones, and our yang energy are stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. And yin is cooling and yang is warming. But here's the thing, they both come out of the same bucket. They're made from the same resources. So when you deplete your body of yang energy, you're depleting the resources you have to create yin energy. So you want to reduce or not drink at all carbonated drinks. And then there's also alcohol and recreational drugs such as marijuana. Those, again, will deplete your body of yin and blood. So it's best to stay away from them. Now, whenever I tell women this, a response I get a lot of the times is, great, you took out everything fun, right? I just took out all the fun foods, everything you enjoyed to do. And I get that, but it is a mindset shift, and it is a change of life and a change of ways. And I think when you start to listen to your body and how your body feels when you ingest things, it becomes a lot easier. That being said, everything in moderation, right? I'm not saying never eat French fries. I eat French fries. I'm not saying never eat chocolate. I eat chocolate. But it's doing these things in moderation and listening to your body and how it feels when you do them. So diet aside, some other things that will deplete your body of yin and blood are things like high intensity workouts, right? They consume a lot of our energy. They consume a lot of our fluids. It's very depleting to our body. So it's always good to have movement in your life if you have the energy to, right? There are times in our life through periods, especially healing periods, where it is better just to rest or just to focus on walking. But for those of you who feel like you have the energy and you want to do movement, things like Pilates or walking or yoga or lifting weights, lower intensity workouts, which again is going to be different from everyone because everyone's on a different scale in terms of their workout level and what feels good to them. But you never want to work out too hard, right? Where you feel exhausted either afterwards or you feel exhausted later in the day, because working out is going to increase that serotonin. It's going to increase adrenaline. So we may have energy right after we work out, but notice how your body feels later in the day. If you work out at 9 a.m. and by 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, you're exhausted, that's a sign that that workout was too intense for your body. And then things like stress, anxiety, and worry will also deplete your body of blood and yin because, like I mentioned, stress, anxiety, and worry and fear are yang responses, right? They are a response that releases things like cortisol and adrenaline, and yin hormones and yang hormones come out of the same bucket. So the more we are utilizing that stress, the less energy we have to create those yin hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. And then lastly, the one that no one really thinks about, but is present in a lot of us, is stored trauma and stored emotions. So when we don't allow ourselves to feel our emotions, which for most of us have grown up that way, either through parenting or through society or through school or through what we see in movies and TV and work, whatever it might be, a lot of us were raised not thinking we're safe to feel our feelings. And if you are one of those people, then most likely you have stored emotions in our body. And we store our emotions in our blood, which is a really supportive safety mechanism of our body, but it is very depleting to store emotions long term. So one thing everyone can do at home is start to feel your feelings. Stop pushing them away. Stop trying to meditate or breathe away your feelings. Allow yourself to feel that uncomfortable energy, which doesn't mean you need to kick or scream or throw a tantrum, but it does mean you need to feel that energy, that uncomfortable feeling in your body. Get used to feeling uncomfortable, because when we allow ourselves to feel through and work that emotion, not only does it not stay in our body, it's released from our body, it doesn't last that long. It's when we try to suppress and ignore those emotions that they last a long time. And then trauma is also stored in our body, and trauma from a Chinese medicine perspective can be big things like physical or sexual abuse, but they can also be small things like growing up in an environment where you didn't feel seen or heard or fully supported. Just having some traumatic event where you weren't invited to a sleepover in middle school and everyone else in your class was, and you felt like a loser and you felt left out, right? Those can all be things that are stuck in the energy of our body as trauma. And now what happens is that trauma, it sits in our body and it's held in our body again for safety purposes. So it doesn't go straight to our organs and it doesn't cause us chronic illness right away. But what happens is, again, it's depleting of resources of our bodies, and it will deplete yin and blood resources. On top of that, when we store trauma in our body and in our mind, it allows us to get triggered really easily and really constantly. So you're going to be feeling more emotions. You're going to have a lot more coming up. And all of that is very depleting and stressful on the body. Now, if you do have stored trauma or you do have stored emotions in your body, the best way I've found to deal with it is through Chinese medicine and the energy of the acupuncture channels, which can be used in person or remotely. But the energy of the acupuncture channels and Chinese medicine have a unique ability to rewire the energy, rebalance, and remove any negative or stuck energy in your body at a constitutional core level, and also to rewire our mindset. So the acupuncture channels are a really beautiful way to do that. And because we're talking about energy, one more thing when it comes to being on hormonal birth control for a long time. So a long time is going to be different to everyone because everyone's body is different, and how many resources you have to begin with to be able to deal with the side effects of hormonal birth control. But, I would say a couple of years even is a lot for most people, and 10 years, a decade, which honestly what most women my age were or have been on birth control for, is considered a long time. And so what happens on an energetic level when we're on birth control for an extended period of time, so we have different to backtrack a little bit so that this makes sense, we have different layers of energy in our channel, different levels of qi, right? And when we are on birth control for a long time, that goes to our deepest layer of qi, our yuan qi, our constitutional DNA level qi, as deep as you can get, right? And when it gets to that layer, it can be really hard to regulate and get your period back without the appropriate energy work, which is why I have such success working with women who've gone off birth control and helping to get their periods back. I recently saw a woman who was trying for a year to get off birth control, to get her period back after birth control. And we were working together for 1 month, utilizing the energy of the constitutional yuan level Chinese medicine acupuncture channels, and she got her period back. I saw another woman who was 5 years that she hadn't had her period after being on birth control. She had been to, many, many other healers. She's been to naturopath, functional medicine, OBGYNs, and nothing worked. And then within 6 months of working together, after not having her period for 5 years, she got her period back. So this stuff is really powerful and it really works. So to end off, I just want to debunk some common myths about going off birth control. And the biggest one is that you need to detox your liver. And I hear this all the time in the holistic wellness world. And you'll even hear this from other acupuncturists who, honestly, to me, that's a sign that they don't know what they're doing. But the fact, no one needs to detoxify their liver. Your liver's main function is detoxification. Your liver and your kidneys work together to detoxify your body. You do not need to do anything to support that. Unless there's something wrong with your liver, which when it comes to detoxification, your liver knows what it's doing. So you don't need to detox. The best way to support your liver is by nourishing your body so that your body has the energy, so that your liver has the energy to do the job that it does best, which is detoxification. Doing supplements or crazy diets to detox your liver are actually just going to make things worse. And one of the best ways to support your liver and its ability to detoxify is by building blood in your body, because another key function of the liver is to store blood. And when the liver doesn't have enough blood, it constricts as a way to conserve resources. So if you want to build the energy of your liver, you don't want to detoxify, you want to nourish your body and build blood. Another common myth is that you need to take a lot of supplements to get your period back or to regulate your cycle after going off birth control. And like I mentioned already, that's just bullshit. Trying to think if there's any other myths I want to debunk right now. No, I guess that's it now for now. So if you hear any other myths and you want to know about it, DM me, reach out to me. I'm happy to chat about it. So that's it for today. That's how to regulate and get your period after going off birth control. To recap, birth control is going to deplete our body's resources of yin and blood. So in order to get our cycle back and to regulate our menstrual cycle, we need to build back those resources such as yin and blood in the body. And by doing so, we're going to have a diet rich in blood and yin building foods. And we're going to also reduce those activities that deplete our body of blood and yin. As always, if you have any questions or want to chat, you can always find me on Instagram. You can reach me in DMs. You can email me. You know where to find me. Thanks for listening.